My name is Richard Thomas, Councilman here in the City of Mount Vernon, Chair of Public Works, but also President Pro Tem. And we're standing here on top of the Best Buy parking lot overlooking Memorial Field. And behind us is an active construction site where you have city workers, not clear which department they're from, but at the very least, you know that they're at an active construction site without proper equipment. And that's a real threat to public safety, their safety, and it creates a real liability for the city.
Now, I know in talking to you, one of your concerns was not getting a timeline.
Yeah.
Speak about that a little bit.
So, from the outset of this project, inheriting it as part of a new council, I was originally in agreement with making sure that we stopped the original design because it was, in my view, going to be over budget and cost the city a lot more than what was sold. You can't build a modern stadium for $13 million. You just can't do it. So the administration pitched the council on redesigning the project and retaining what we have, rehabbing it for a cost that would be within the budget. Agree with that. You know, try not to create more of a cost burden for the community. But at the end of the day, we can't get a straight answer on the 5 W's: who, what, where, why, and when. And every time we get closer to understanding the true timeline or the true needs of the project, the goalpost shifts further and further down the field. And that's just not the right way to do business, not just as a business person, but also as a city with its residents. And there's real money being spent right here, right now. And when it comes to questioning where these resources are coming from, there's only one place: the city's budget. And it's not clear which budget, but at the end of the day, real costs are being incurred, resources are being taken away. And here's an example: you got a crew of guys there. They could be filling potholes. They could be fixing sidewalks that aren't level. They could be painting, striping for kids going back to school, so they know, where the intersection is as they approach a stoplight. But for some reason, this is more important than our kids' safety, and this is more important for creating more of a health hazard for the community than really following the rules and sticking with a real plan to get this done.
All right, now, when I was here a couple weeks ago, Commissioner Bove, he said the county hadn't released the funds and they were doing what they could with what they had. And they were moving, workers from other places that were not, I guess they were finished their assignment, or they weren't needed, and they moved them over here, because they were still on the clock.
Well, again, priorities and resources. So beginning with the county has nothing to do with the true delay of the funds. And if anything, I commend the county on holding the money up. They basically said the same thing where I began: what are we paying for? And when they originally bonded for the previous design, they saw the city make a shift in its design, and once that happened, they held up the money.
Okay, so now talk about the truck. You just saw this.
So we just witnessed a backhoe of a construction vehicle leave an asbestos-laden site with a bunch of material, stop traffic, and go toward Target. There isn't a dumpster over there. Who knows where this thing is going? But there's a real issue here with respect to how this is being handled and where the costs are being incurred and who's paying for this. Because the problem is,
let me speak about the asbestos thing.
Sure.
You were speaking about that. What is the problem with them taking it down? And you said something about permits. Explain
sure. So first and foremost, you need a permit to do any demolition in the city of Mount Vernon, anywhere in the state. You need a permit. It's state law. Even municipalities need a permit. There's no permit here. The Department of Labor oversees.
You know for sure that there's no permit? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
The Department of Labor oversees the removal of asbestos. The Department of Labor is not here. They were not involved in any demolition. They had no knowledge.
We're talking about the concession stand.
We're talking about the concession stand, and you can go as far back as the tennis stand that was up a few months ago. So there's no real consideration by the city of Mount Vernon for removal of asbestos. And this material is being cycled into other debris at the site, and it's going to be it's going to almost be impossible to distinguish what is contaminated and what's not. That's going to inflate costs astronomically.
Now, what is the dangers of actually removing it without a permit and without being overseen?
So cancer is one of them. You breathe that stuff in. Asbestos has been linked to cancer. If you have a respiratory ailment, this is a very densely populated, trafficked area. You have, as again, Best Buy, Target. You have homes, multiple family homes around here. That dust travels. That particulate matter gets in the air. A family shopping at Target or some other place accidentally inhales that. You're going to wind up with a serious health issue. You're going to have an asthma attack. You could trigger some other health issue, and it's a cost that goes undiscussed. But the problem is it's a real threat.
So now, who's responsible for that? Who's supposed to have gotten the permits, or who?
So first and foremost, there are multiple agencies that are overseeing this project, and all the commissioners, especially the building and the public works commissioner, should know which permits are needed and which permits should be on site, and they should really be following the code here. It's their job. Now, the other aspect is, this goes right to the top. You know, the mayor is ultimately in charge of the commissioners, and there's no way that the mayor does not know what's going on because he has pictures of himself walking around the construction site. So at the end of the day, this is a top-down issue, and there's no regard for the workers' safety, the public safety, and you're creating a lot more hazards than it's really worth.
Now, what was told to me by Commissioner Bove, that the mayor has them recycling as much of the material as possible. But you're saying with asbestos, that's a danger.
That's a huge danger. You can't reuse asbestos-laden material. You got to specifically treat it. You have to have a carter's license to take it to a specific site, either in the state of New York or out of the state of New York. And it's a real issue for the city to actively disregard the rules around asbestos.
Now I want to go past the residents. They're trying to figure out what's going on. I did a couple of stories, and basically a lot of people want to know what's going on. They heard there was one vision from one mayor, then the next mayor came in and he changed the plan. And they heard, now tennis courts and 6 to 8 lanes on the tracks. And basically, for a long time, they didn't see anything being done from the street. So what do you say to the residents? What do you...
Keep asking your questions, keep swinging, because the problem is there are real costs being incurred here, and there's a real trade-off. And the example is given by the performance in the snow disaster of last year, or earlier this winter, when the city didn't have plows. The potholes lingered, and they still linger in riddle our streets. And the monies that could have been spent filling potholes, fixing street lights, replacing striping that's not on the ground to distinguish intersections for kids going to school, all that money is being redirected towards something that's not properly legal, in my view.
Okay, and now, the project's already started. A lot of promises were made. How do we get from where we are to this being completed?
Just stop work. Stop work and have a real assessment of what needs to happen, and make sure that we get on track to complete this project within a reasonable time frame and within a reasonable cost construct. Because right now, I don't see anything that suggests that money's being saved here. I don't see anything that suggests that there's even a commitment to making sure this is a priority to get finished. From what I see, this is just an attempt to make it look as if something is happening, but there's greater cost than what it's really worth to give that appearance.
Now, again, one of the things Commissioner Bove spoke on, they did the tennis courts first. The process was working in the back because they had to remove all the stuff to the front. So if they was to do the front, then they would have been trashing all the stuff that they did, as they went to the back. All right, and the tennis courts are going to be a moneymaker, I guess, and should be open in a couple of weeks. So that's what I guess was a priority.
Well, there's a saying, I'll gladly pay you for a hamburger on Tuesday for a hamburger today. I think that's applicable here. And one of the things I can tell you is that you go anywhere. Engineering is a well-evolved science, and to think that you can't build a tennis court or to think that you have to do it this way first is just ridiculous. I mean, look, if they were doing it that way, they should have been done by now. And it's been years, not months, not days, weeks, years for a tennis court to be completed. I've seen a building on 47th Street in the Diamond District go up in 18 months. And the tennis court in Mount Vernon, which is just a flat surface, is still taking 3 or 4 years to build.
His reply to his comment to that was, because the county hadn't released funds, they basically had to do what they could with what they had.
The question is, what do we have? Where is the budget for this? What budget codes are we using for this work? Because the city did budget money. We bonded roughly $3 million for this project, and we agreed to a certain set of expenditures. Now,
that was back what?
That was back in 2010, 2009. That was on the council before I got on. And so the mandate was consistent with the county. These are the costs we expect to incur.
And you showed me 2.6 has been spent already.
To date, from what I understand, as of 2013, the last printout I got from the city of Mount Vernon is that $2.6 million was spent as of August 2013. On what? Don't know. And the problem is, if the county hasn't released money, that means the city's money, the $3 million pot that we had, was spent. And obviously work has been going on here. Work is ongoing for some reason or another, permits or not. And we can't get a clear assessment of our costs. So assuming that our $3 million is exhausted as of last year, where's the rest of the money coming from? And obviously it must be coming from the general fund. Can't find it anywhere, and we can find the results in the streets. They're broken. You got issues with getting information, and you got a lot of people having major problems with this, including myself.
Where I am on 5th Street and 4th Street, around 7th, 8th, and 9th Avenue, they're not sure if those streets are going to be ready before the school starts, all that construction.
And that again is an issue.
That's a very concern of that area.
That is exactly why we need to have 3 things: focus, priorities, and resources. Once we focus on picking the problems, such as making sure that the streets or the work that is being done to fortify the gas system or the electric system in town is done, we need to make sure that that happens quickly so kids can get to school, people can go to church. Then we need to assess what needs to happen next. And right now we don't have any plan. It's just show up to work and figure out what to do next. And frankly, that's not the way we should be doing business, and that's not the way a city should be run.
Now, I have a difficult question to ask you, and it's my job to ask.
Sure.
Some people say you're just making a lot of noise as far as the mayor is concerned because you're going to run for mayor.
Well, let me say this. I'm not interested in running for mayor, and I'm not really giving it much thought because my job is a councilman, and as councilman, I'm focused on making sure that we hold administrators accountable for the monies that's being spent, and I'm just doing my job. And if they're upset that I'm making noise over a construction site without hard hats, without masks, goggles, proper footwear, proper protocol from a permit standpoint, then they have something that they're hiding, and they really need to deal with it. And we need to probably get some federal regulators in here to take a hard look.
Okay. Wrapping this up.
Sure.
Where do we go from here? What's the next step? What needs to happen?
The next step is to involve the state attorney general, because this has to stop. Because you can't spend public dollars and claim you're saving money when you're costing more money. You can't spend public dollars and not have permits to prove that it's appropriate and you're authorized to spend those dollars. And you can't put people, real people, in harm's way because you think it is the right thing to try and do with what you got. We don't have much, and that's the problem. We have people that are struggling to make ends meet. We got people choosing between their light and their food. You got people really struggling in this economy, and we have drugs affecting our young people. We have drugs affecting some of our seniors, and to know that we have resources, money, be it from the county or the city, being used for something that's not a real defined priority on a real timeline to conclusion.